Okay, this is Pete Williams for Unico. We're going to be talking part 2 of the EC motor changes. This is going to involve the software. Now the latest software version that we have is ECM Config version 4.6. Now the thing about this is backwards compatible. If you have a unit that was made before January of this year, 2015, these units will be available to use this new software. The new software we have has quite a few more bells and whistles to it than what we had before, and we're going to take a look at these one by one. First of all, you notice the model number. In the past, what would happen would be this would show, in our case here, we have hooked up to a 2430. That's illuminated, there's a yellow light. The older units would gray out, so you would see 2430 and the other ones would fade away. So that's changed a little bit. We've also added some more features to this as well. So you have the main tab, which is still pretty much the same, with the exception of showing the 2430 on there. It's pretty much the same for the main tab. But this is new. This air cycle here allows us to do a couple things. The big thing in the industry today is the ASHRAE 62.2 standard. This provides for fresh air in residential construction. And we can set this up on auto mode. As you can see right here, we're going to click that right there. Now, the ASHRAE 62.2 is based upon 3 factors. The area of the house, which in this case we have programmed for 1,500 square feet, 2 bedrooms in this case, and 3 occupants. So if that were the case with this 2430, we would need to provide for 37 CFM of air, or 10% of fresh air. So we will have the option of controlling this several different ways. The way we have right here is, let's just take a look back on the board for a second. There is a terminal labeled EAC. That is a dry contact. We used to say that stood for electronic air cleaner. It still can be used with any device such as a UV light bulb. But now with this, if we check this switch right here, it allows the EAC function to provide the ASHRAE 62.2 through a fresh air damper. And we have 2 settings with it. We can set it for maximum comfort, or we can set it to energy saver. Now another thing that we've added, it was in the past with the air cycle switch. We still have the air cycle switch. Originally it was called the winter switch. The original switches would run for 10 minutes on ventilation speed if the thermostat didn't receive a call for heating or cooling within an 8-hour period. And the idea with that was to prevent condensation from forming. Now we just basically arbitrarily picked 10 minutes out of every 8 hours. With this function here, you notice right here where it says fixed mode, we can do that. We can actually change this to as high as 59 minutes every hour. So again, we have more flexibility as a result of this. And in addition to that, we've also got a 3rd tab that shows switches. Now again, if you can see this in yellow, it shows the boiler switch is set to primary, the chiller switch is set to leader, potable water is off, etc., etc. So we can take a look at this and see what the switches are setting. Also, we've included some more files under the File tab. We now can save this configuration to the laptop. We can load this from the laptop, or we can exit. In terms of options, it allows us to set the units in either IP, which is English measurements, or SI, which is metric. For fresh air, we can have 2 types of dampers that are hooked up to this. One is power open, spring closed. The other type is power closed, spring open. Now this was improved considerably. We now have diagnostics with this. We have, first of all, a fresh air monitor. If you can take a look at the screen right here, this makes a sample of how much fresh air that we're putting in. So we can see very simply how much air is being put in. So we can do a long-term analysis to see how our system is performing. We also, through the diagnostics program, have the motor status available. In this case, we're showing the internal voltage is 340 volts DC. The motor is currently stopped because we don't have the system on. We'll do that in just a minute. And down here we also have a service logger. So if you have a problem with the system, you can start the logger and it will maintain a record. You just name the file and where you want to save it on your hard drive, and it will tell you what the system is performing. So let's turn the system on. Again, that basically exists the same way that we did before. What we do, we go back to the main tab, right here, main tab, and then we're going to set this up just by clicking the thermostat override button to run on high cool. So again, note the CFM, again, it's an EC motor, it's a soft start. They take anywhere from up to about 30 seconds from the time it gets a signal until it ramps to full speed. So right now, we're about 300 CFM. It's going to ramp up in a couple seconds to 400. Now we've gotten, excuse me, it's going to go up to 500 CFM in this case because we're using the default setting. So right now we're at 500 CFM of air, but our RPM is still increasing. So again, this system sets the RPM to provide the exact amount of CFM. So right now we're running at just under 1,000 RPM, putting out 500 CFM of air. So let's take a look also when the system is running what the air cycle looks like. Okay, it's basically the same. Again, it gives us two choices. We can set this for automatic or we can set this for fixed. It's up to you. And then we can run our diagnostics right now, take a look at our motor status. Well, we have a little different voltage than we did before. We have 332 volts DC. Again, that's a DC motor. It's an inverter motor. It is an electronically commutated motor. And they take AC power and turn it in through a rectifier into DC power. So we're running right now at 336 volts. And if we take a look at our diagnostic feature for the service logger, we can start the logger. We can just save this as a text file to anywhere we'd like on our system. I'm going to replace the name of it. So we can see right now the green button that is flashing on this indicates that the service logger is logging. So you can leave this plugged into a laptop. Again, there are tablets on the market that are available for under $80 that will also do the same function. But this will show you exactly what is going on in the system. We've also made some other changes with the software as well. Let's stop logging the program for just a moment and take a look down here. We made the troubleshooting easier. I don't know how easy it is to see this on camera, but we see the little dots going back and forth. So if we are hooked up to our fan, it says yes. If we're hooked up to the SCB, the control board, it says yes. And if we're hooked up to the laptop, it says yes. If we ever have a problem, we have an increased help menu. We have a lot of information on here on troubleshooting, such as LED codes, communication error codes, the menus, again the diagnostics with that, electric heater airflow requirements. Let's just take a look at that very briefly. So again, with electric airflow, with electric heater, we do have to maintain a minimum CFM of air across the coil, or else we'll burn the elements up. The system will not work, for instance, with a 10 kilowatt system unless we have a minimum of 500 CFM of air. So this has a lot of functionality to it. It is backwards compatible. This also is available for download at tech.unicosystem.com. So this is our most current version. It's version 4.6. And like most software programs, we will be adding features to this as time goes by. So please check the tech.unicosystem.com website for the latest in software. So those are the upgrades and features with the new EC motor. As I say, we made some changes with both the hardware, or the board I should say, and with the software. And again, the software is backwards compatible. For those of you that had a board that was manufactured before January 1st of this year, you're able to take advantage of the new software features. So that's it for this segment of the Unico University. Again, I appreciate you folks for joining me here today and hope to see you on another episode. Thank you.